Imagine you just became a parent. You did everything right. You protected, you fed, you watched over the next generation with your entire body and soul. Now imagine a stranger walks in and kills your child in front of you. Not for food, not by accident, on purpose. This happens every single day in nature, and it is not the villains doing it. It is the fathers. Most people assume predators only kill to eat. That is not quite right. Some of the deadliest killings in the animal kingdom have nothing to do with hunger at all. Scientists have a name for it: infanticide. And once you understand why it happens, you will never look at nature the same way again. Because the reason is not cruelty. The reason is love. Twisted, cold, calculating love. Stay till the end, because the last part of the story is not about lions. It is about you. Let's start in the grasslands of East Africa, a pride of lions. A new male has just taken over. He fought the old king. He won. He is standing over the pride now, breathing hard, blood on his mane. And within hours, he starts hunting. Not zebras, not gazelles, the cubs that already live there, the cubs that are not his. Researchers studying lions in the Serengeti in the 1980s documented this again and again. A new male arrives. The cubs disappear. Not from disease, not from other predators, from him. So why would a father kill children he is supposed to protect? Here is the twist. He is not protecting them. He never adopted them as his own. In his biology, there is only one goal: pass on his own genes before he dies or gets overthrown again. And here is the part that sounds impossible. A lioness cannot get pregnant again while she is still nursing another male's cubs. Her body is busy. Her hormones are locked into motherhood. So the new male has a brutal, efficient solution: remove the cubs. Within days, her body resets. She becomes fertile again. And this time, the next litter will be his. It sounds monstrous, but here is what's fascinating. This is not a glitch in nature. This is a strategy that evolution rewards over and over, in completely unrelated species, on opposite sides of the planet. Travel now to the forests of Rwanda, mountain gorillas. A silverback dies or is defeated. A new male moves in to take his place among the females. And primatologists who spent years living among these gorillas recorded the same brutal pattern. Infants from the old silverback disappear within the first weeks of a takeover. Not always, but often enough that it cannot be coincidence. The new male is not interested in raising someone else's child. He is interested in one thing only: his own bloodline, as fast as possible. Now, here's a question. If this is just an animal thing, why does it feel so uncomfortable to hear? Because deep down, you already know something like this logic still echoes in your own species. We will come back to that. Let's go somewhere you would never expect: the ocean. Bottlenose dolphins off the coast of Australia have been observed doing something researchers did not expect to find in such an intelligent, playful animal. Male dolphins, sometimes working in alliances of 2 or 3, have been seen killing calves that are not theirs. Scientists who tracked dolphin pods for years in Shark Bay documented calf deaths that lined up suspiciously with mating windows. The pattern repeats. Remove the competitor's offspring. Speed up the mother's return to fertility. Increase your own odds of fathering the next one. So what killed the assumption that only primitive or aggressive animals do this? Dolphins are famous for empathy, for play, for rescuing swimmers. And yet the same cold math shows up in their world too. This is not about which species is good or bad. This is about a rule written into the deepest layer of biology. Genes do not care about kindness. Genes only care about copies of themselves. Now imagine you are a mother mouse. You just gave birth. Everything feels calm. Then a strange male mouse enters your space. Within hours, something inside your own body starts to shut the pregnancy process down if you were freshly pregnant by a different male. This is real. It is called the Bruce effect, named after biologist Hilda Bruce, who documented it in the 1950s. The scent of an unfamiliar male alone, no violence required, can cause a pregnant female mouse to lose the pregnancy and become receptive to the new male instead. Her own body preemptively surrenders the old genetic line to protect against something worse. Because in the wild, if that new male finds her pups born from another father later, he might not just ignore them. Let's zoom into rodents that live in giant underground cities. Black-tailed prairie dogs. A biologist who spent over a decade observing wild prairie dog colonies documented something surprising. Females themselves sometimes kill the pups of other females in their own colony, not just intruding males. Why would mothers do this to other mothers' young? Competition for limited burrow space and food resources. Fewer competing pups this season means more resources for her own line next season. It is uncomfortable, but it proves something important. This is not a story about evil males and innocent females. This is a story about resources, competition, and survival math that runs colder than any character in nature deserves credit for understanding. Here's the question that should be forming in your mind right now. If this behavior appears independently in lions, gorillas, dolphins, mice, and prairie dogs, animals that are barely related to each other, why does it keep evolving again and again? Because evolution does not care about being nice. Evolution repeats whatever strategy works. And infanticide, as horrifying as it sounds to us, works. It removes rivals. It resets biology. It reopens fertility windows faster than waiting naturally ever could. Any gene that pushed an animal toward this behavior, even slightly, tended to leave more copies of itself in the next generation. Over millions of years, that tiny push became a repeating pattern carved across the entire animal kingdom. Now here is the deepest layer, the one almost nobody talks about. Females did not just sit back and lose this game. In species where infanticide by incoming males is common, something remarkable evolved on the female side too. In langur monkeys studied in the forests of India starting in the 1970s, one researcher noticed something that changed how scientists understood female behavior forever. Female langurs, facing the threat of a new male killing their infants, sometimes mate with multiple males, including the incoming male, even while already pregnant. Why? Because in many primates, a male is far less likely to kill an infant if there's a chance it might be his own. Confusion becomes protection. Uncertainty becomes a survival tool. Let that sink in. In some species, deception and multiple mating are not chaos. They are a calculated counter-strategy against infanticide. A war being fought silently, generation after generation, between one sex trying to guarantee its bloodline and the other trying to protect its children by any means necessary. Compare that to modern life for a second. We build laws around paternity. We build entire legal and emotional systems around who is really the father, who inherits what, who is responsible for whom. Have you ever wondered why so many cultures throughout history were so obsessed with proving fatherhood, with virginity, with monogamy, with jealousy over infidelity, specifically around children? Some evolutionary psychologists argue this obsession did not appear from nowhere. It may be an emotional echo of exactly the same ancient pressure we just watched play out in lions and langurs. The fear is old, far older than any human culture. It may be written into the same biological code as a lion's mane and a mouse's nose. So what actually stops this pattern in a species? In some primates and in early human ancestors, one major shift appears to have changed everything: pair bonding. When a male stays with one female long enough to be confident the offspring is his, the incentive to kill disappears. Protection replaces threat. Investment replaces removal. Some anthropologists believe this single shift, staying close, staying loyal, staying present, Maybe one of the quiet reasons human infants can survive being so helpless for so many years, compared to almost any other animal on Earth. Human babies cannot walk, cannot feed themselves, cannot do anything for over a year. That level of extreme vulnerability only works in a world where the threat of infanticide has been mostly engineered out through bonding, family structure, and social punishment for violence against children. Think about that. The safety you take for granted as a baby, as a child, as someone who is allowed to simply exist and grow without threat, was never guaranteed by nature. It was built, piece by piece, generation by generation, against the exact same biological pressure that still drives a new lion to kill cubs that are not his own. Here's the uncomfortable final layer. Human history is not innocent of this pattern either. Studies of family violence across different societies and time periods have repeatedly found the same disturbing statistic. Children are, on average, at meaningfully higher risk of fatal abuse from a non-biological parent or step-parent than from a biological one. Researchers who first proposed this connection back in the 1980s called it, controversially, the Cinderella effect, drawing a direct line. Back to the same evolutionary logic driving a lion, a gorilla, a dolphin. It does not mean love between step-families is fake. Most step-parents are loving and protective. It means the ancient pressure never fully disappeared. It just got buried under culture, law, empathy, and choice. Humans are the only species that can consciously override 1 billion years of biological programming. And most of us do it, every single day, without even realizing there was ever a program to override. So the next time you see a nature documentary and a narrator calmly says a male animal took over a group, remember what that phrase is quietly hiding. It is not a peaceful transition of power. It is often the beginning of a purge, engineered by biology, older than any human moral code, older than language, older than fire. And the mice, the lions, the dolphins, the prairie dogs, they never had a choice. Their bodies made the decision for them, long before they were even born. You do have a choice. Every time a parent chooses to protect a child that is not biologically theirs, every time love overrides an ancient, cold, genetic calculation running quietly underneath all of us, that is not nature failing. That is nature being beaten, on purpose, by something stronger than instinct. And maybe that is the real reason this story feels so unsettling. Not because it is about lions, because somewhere inside you, you already knew the same rules were written into your blood too.